In 2004's Shaun of the Dead, directed by Edgar Wright, the protagonist, Shaun, represents the quintessential Gen Z slacker, entitled in his expectation of reward for putting only the barest minimum of effort into his own life and relationships. Mercifully, Wright challenges this worldview during the scene where Shaun attempts to win Liz back with a bouquet intended for his mum. Shaun's low-effort approach, while a great source of humour, backfires and results in the collapse of his relationship. No slacker behind the camera, Wright effortlessly maintains Shaun's point of view as the subjective lens through which we view this narrative development. After a series of quick cuts that enshrines the language of action cinema into Wright's stylistic lexicon, Shaun finds himself locked outside, isolated, begging to be let up. Using the tools of mise-en-scène, Wright has composed this shot as a frame within a frame, creating a black pillar boxing that centres, isolates, and traps Shaun in the small world he has created for himself. Furthermore, this darker foreground element creates a very clear separation for the audience between the interior and exterior of the building. The shot itself references that famous scene in The Searchers when Ethan turns away and walks off into the desert, a cowboy with no place in a modern world. In this iteration, Shaun is a slacker with no place in Liz's apartment or heart. The shot is given added intensity with a push in, further foregrounding Shaun's point of view as he begs to be let in over the building's intercom and is denied. The shot, including the push in, is a setup or cause whose effect is later paid off. In the first instance, the push in eliminates the foreground darkness, casting a sense of hope across the scene. Although the movement is mirrored in the second instance, the push-in instead follows Shaun as he's turned away, left out in the cold, just like Ethan, quite literally, as on cue his slacker entitlement is punished by a sudden rainstorm. In another example of cause and effect across the film, Shaun tries to scale Liz's building, fails, and gives up when the going gets tough, highlighting just how quickly he throws in the towel after the first setback, thus reinforcing the representation of Shaun as a slacker. This narrative beat is achieved primarily through sound effects, but is coupled with a medium close-up, which starts on David and Di, and then trucks left to shift focus to an empty window. The sounds of Shaun struggling with this feat of athleticism are innately amusing, and the slow shifting focus to the window builds anticipation in the audience that Shaun is about to burst through it. Juxtaposed with the tense music and underlined by the speed with which Shaun buzzes the intercom, the objective here is to create humour for the audience, whilst simultaneously undermining the character's self-perceived masculinity. Capturing the beat in this way is undoubtedly a result of the film's relatively small budget, which was approximately 18 million Great British pounds in 2004. Rigging, stunting, and insuring the production for a scene where a character attempts to scale a building and falls would have been cost prohibitive. Instead, this beat demonstrates Wright's versatility as a creator, wringing jokes out of every moment, even on a shoestring. As an example of cause and effect, this moment is revisited when Shaun comes for Liz amid the actual zombie apocalypse, repeating the application of both camera and sound. However, in the payoff, Shaun manages the climb, developing his representation from slacker to active protagonist, recasting for the audience Shaun as a Prince Charming figure here to rescue his Rapunzel. A final demonstration of both Shaun's construction as a representation of a slacker, as well as Wright's framing of this sequence through Shaun's point of view, comes just a few moments later when Liz breaks up with him. This connected scene starts in a medium 2 shot as Shaun and Liz banter about a bouquet of flowers he's bought her. After this, the camera shifts to a pair of over-the-shoulder medium close-ups, presented shot reverse shot, one character always out of focus, the other sharp. This use of short depth of field creates a power imbalance by emphasizing one character over the other in each shot, creating separation despite the characters both sharing the same physical space, and signposting to the audience the approaching end of this relationship. Of particular note here is that while Liz details her fears of a depressing future with Shaun, incidentally ending the relationship, Shaun is the character in focus. Wright is here directing the audience to focus not on Liz's hardships, but instead on Shaun's reaction to this news, foregrounding his perspective at her expense during this narrative development, depicting him as passive while his relationship ends. Through the deliberate use of media codes such as mise-en-scène, camera movement and sound, Shaun is isolated, undermined and rendered ineffective, reinforcing his representation as a slacker whose self-perception is at odds with reality. At the same time, Wright's commitment to Shaun's point of view ensures the audience experiences these values through his subjective lens, balancing humour with an underlying sense of discomfort as the consequences of his behaviour become unavoidable. As the catalyst, this scene not only destabilises Shaun's world, but also establishes the narrative trajectory that will later see these same conventions revisited and subverted, as he is ultimately forced to transition from passive observer to active protagonist in response to the escalating stakes of the zombie apocalypse.
You promised things would change.
You promised you'd get us free cable.
I'm working on that.
Okay.
Well, I can give it smoking. I can give it whenever I want. Look, see? Don't need them. What was the next one?
It's not enough, Shaun.
Well, we intend to have a breakdown in communication there. We'll try and get